Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Barry Kostrinsky. This is actually our fourth or the third talk that we're recording. It's Artist Talk. This is not part of ATOA, something I'm sort of doing on my own. It's nice to see our group gather. I have sort of put up the last talks that were recorded on a YouTube channel. That was both, we had ZMAD present, and we also had, I can remember this, another artist from Tennessee. He'll come to me later. He was incredible, by the way. Damien Crisp, yes.
Yeah.
He was very good. And you can see those talks if you missed it as well. We have Melodie Provenzano coming in from Tennessee again. It's another example of a expat New Yorker moving to Tennessee. So it's sort of interesting that they're lined up together back to back. And I know, Melodie, I used to visit your studio in Harlem, in the East Harlem,
Yes.
over from the Bronx. I think you're in for a treat tonight. Feel free to jump in at any time and ask questions. Let's keep it interactive and sort of open up ideas and share thoughts together. Melodie has a great presentation coming, I'm sure. And I'll just hand it over to you and thank everybody for taking time out to join tonight.
Yes, thank you, Barry. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I was born in Hudson, New York, and I went to Parsons School of Design, and I lived in Manhattan for many, many years. I was in the same apartment for 20 years where Barry used to come visit me in Spanish Harlem and East Harlem. Used to be Italian, actually, and then it became Spanish, and now it's East. So anyway, yeah, I got a lot of images together. It's always it's a struggle to like pick out from thousands and thousands and thousands of images, like what you want to share, but I narrowed it down to 52 images. And so let me see if I can screen share here. Share screen, desktop, okay, share. And then I can go to view, enter full screen. Okay, so now this was in my studio in Harlem. I'm pretty much a still life painter. And here you can see my little bow there on the wall that I created. And I'm painting it from life here, rather large. And here's another example of my studio in East Harlem. Here's another example of the still life is on the left and the painting is on the right. This was after the painting was finished. And I was copying Damien Hirst. I had some paper that I got at the MoMA or something. He had like, there was like a stack of these papers. And so I got a bunch, and I thought it'd be fun to copy his work. Well, it's very, very time consuming to try to make each color. The formula for his dot paintings, is like each color is a different color. Like there's no color repeated in any of those dots. So I tried to be true to that, and just painting each one in meticulously is very meditative. And I got it done, but it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
It may be obvious, but I have to point out in those earlier images, those shadows are painted shadows. Your hyper-realism is so strong that sometimes we think that's maybe light being cast, but certainly a major tool for you is your shadows.
Sure, the shadows make everything look real. I had a friend once who was like, "Where are the shadows?" And I had never really thought about shadows, and then I started to think about them, and now they're crucial. This is still life painting that I did. I'm going to show you some New York stuff first, and then I'll switch to like when we moved to Tennessee. I've got them kind of in some sort of chronological order. This painting's called Heaven. You see the bow motif. I was really into bows for quite a while. And I really love figurines. This one's Hell. And these are like Halloween costume horns and party hats. And for me, I'm really into Buddhist philosophy, and thinking about like ways that you suffer, you know, you get hooked on things, you want things for your birthday when you're a kid, you know, this kind of hell that's in partying and desire and lusting for things. And then here's my earth painting. Now there's a bar up at the top, Barry. Do you see that? I don't know how to get rid of it.
Oh, no, I don't see it. I don't see
Okay, good.
it.
You're seeing just the whole screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because it's cutting off like the top of the painting for me, but
No, it looks great, by the way.
oh, thank you. So this painting's called Earth. So I had a hell, a heaven, and an earth painting. And in this, you know, I wanted to have sickness. So there's a green zombie-like thing over there in the bottom side. And there's aging, these older musicians, and death. There's well, I guess the zombie could be death too. This headless Asian figurine here. And then like all the things of life, you know, different cultures and different animals, and there's a little bow there again, and fire here. This hula girl, she's a candle, so she's like slowly melting away.
Melody, would you
Yeah.
say you're more of a surrealist or a symbolist in a way, or a mixture of both?
I'd say I'm a mixture of everything, even abstraction. Yeah, I would say like a lot of this work, you know, is setting it up and then just like going into it and looking at it as visual elements, and not so much for the content. The content is, or I mean the story, you know, the story is, I had a vague idea like, oh, I want to do earth and I want to include these elements. But then once the painting itself starts, it really just becomes about the paint and moving it around to make it look like what I'm seeing and connecting with what I'm seeing. And then to do that, I see it very abstractly, like, oh, here's a light and here's a dark and here's this shape and that shape, and you know, and then all the shapes fit together, and then suddenly it's alive and it looks real, and I'm excited. That's
yes. What is the medium that you use, Melody? What kind of medium?
These are acrylic. The paintings are acrylic. I'm going to show you another one. This one is gouache on paper with pencil. Mm-hmm. And I love this one because it's like, I call it effervescent. It's it has all kinds of reflections in it. And I had this, you know, set up. And so it's just, the setup doesn't compare to the actual piece when it's done, because the piece when it's done, I feel like is so clean and pristine, and kind of like, I don't know, it gets me excited to see it. I love this piece. A friend of mine commissioned me to do it for him. He's really into the number 8. And I was like, I know just what to do. I had all these 8 balls. I was like, you're going to love it. And he did. He loved it. I love it. So figurines. I really love figurines. I don't know why. I just do. This is one. I especially love figurines that are 2 as 1. And this is a crazy looking married couple. And I love the abstract or the geometric forms, like the circle in between their faces that you see. Like, I love that. I think it's so, I think I could zoom in maybe, you know, it just is so like bizarre. Yeah.
It almost reads as the third eye, and they're connecting, and they almost become one figure as well.
Yeah. So
Melody, I want to try and figure out how you got into the figurines. When and I always like to ask artists, when you were younger, what kind of art did you make or do, if any? What kind of drawing or objects?
I drew still lifes, believe it or not. I had a book, you know, how to draw still lifes, and I took watercolor lessons from a neighbor, and she had me painting like a vase with some wheat coming out of it, and I did, I switched kind of to abstract painting when I was a senior in high school, or like in junior, senior. I had a painting teacher who was really into abstraction. His name was Mr. King. He was great. And I thought I was going to be an abstract painter. And then I went to Paris, and one of my teachers there said, oh, you need to carry around a sketchbook and draw from life all the time. And I was like, this is great. I love doing this. I love drawing from life. I love connecting with what I'm seeing. And so that's, it's pretty much, oops, how that happened. Here's an example of objects that I painted to make this larger piece called Raw Ribbon. The canvas was raw, and this particular photo is when it was installed at the Waterfall Mansion in New York City, which still has my work. It has this piece right here. This piece is 100 inches by 100 inches. It's made up of different panels. The center panel is 4 feet by 4 feet. And yeah, she has that on display now. I think it's on the 4th floor or something at that place, the Waterfall Mansion. It's a really beautiful, beautiful Upper East Side house with a waterfall built into it. It's worth checking out if you're in New York City. There I am in my New York City studio, and there's John Lee, my son. He's going to be in 1st grade now. He's turning 6 August 14th. So that's exciting. He's going to go back to school, and then I can get more time in my studio. It definitely has eaten into my my artistic time to have a little boy, but it's great. So when I was in New York, the last show I had there was in 2020, and I had this concept where I was tired of painting things that I came up with, and I wanted to celebrate other artists. I wanted to kind of be selfless. I thought, what better way to do that than to paint other artists' sculptures? So this is a painting of Jeannie Tremel's sculpture, and here it is in the show. I thought this was a fantastic show. Here are her 4 little sculptures there on the wall. They're all so beautiful and crafted, just, oh, they're so detailed and fun to look at. And there's my big painting next to it. So the whole show was the paintings I made and the sculptures that I made them of. The artists let me take their work into my studio. I did it one at a time because I was in a railroad apartment on the 4th floor, and only had room for one at a time. Here's Matt McCaslin's sculpture, and I hung it on my wall. You can see here what I mean by like the thing that I'm working from, like, you know, it's like I put all paper and it's a mess, but then the finished painting, you know, it's all cleaned up, and there it is, Matt's sculpture. This is an artist, Arthur Sims. He's originally from Jamaica, and he's doing lots of stuff right now. He's kind of popular right now, which is really great for him. There's his sculpture there on the pedestal. This is Sherry Mendelson. She does these amazing sculptures made out of plastic bottles. Like everything she does is recycled basically, and it's all like old plastic. And she makes these vessels that look like they've been around for 1,000 years. They look like they're made out of glass, but they're not. They're just plastic. And that's my painting of her sculpture. This is Michelle Segre's sculpture, which is just totally wild. I wanted to pick things that were totally unique and would showcase a lot of different styles. And the name of the show was Seeing Oneself and Others. So it was like the oneself, this sort of idea of, you know, we're all in this together. And, you know, if I hurt you, I'm really hurting myself. Or if you hurt me, you're really hurting yourself. And let's all be kind to each other. And let's all celebrate being artists. Like, there's my painting of the sculpture. Jae Young Kim. He's from Korea. He has a studio in New York and in Korea, and there are his ceramic donuts. He's got donuts all over the world now, I think. And so this is the Nancy Margolis Gallery, which closed. I had the last show in her physical space. She closed her physical space. She's still an online gallery, but she no longer has this beautiful space in Chelsea. All right, that brings us to Tennessee. This is the 3-car garage where I'm now sitting. I can't hear you, Barry.
Sorry, let me, I unmuted myself. Let me read you a couple of comments.
Okay.
Babs Rangel says, wonderful work. She also mentioned that she knows Sherry's work. It's amazing. And finds it interesting how you change the scale of the sculpture. Are there methods and reasons for your change?
Well, I wanted all the paintings that I did of all the sculptures to be kind of in similar size, so that they would all kind of be equal in scale. So that's why Matt's sculpture, which was all the light bulbs, is as big as his is big. His sculpture is big compared to the other sculptures, but it, like, in terms of it being next to the other paintings, it's like the same size as all the paintings.
And Pamela Joe says, I'm always in awe of your work, Melody. And Pamela was one of your teachers.
Oh, excellent. Thank
No,
you.
hi. No, I'm just an old friend.
Oh, a young friend. Sorry, just a young.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
You know, and I can't.
Oh, Pam. Hi, Pam. I know. I recognize your voice.
Yes, I wouldn't miss this.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for being here.
Of course, of course.
You know, and I have to point out the way you did a solo show and you incorporated so many other artists into it. I mean, think of what you did for all of them and how you highlighted that it's a community. You said, we're all in this together. And that's certainly a theme that has developed amongst a lot of the artists in this group, listening and, you know, sharing, who've shared in the past, and yourself. And I think you're dead on with that. You really are. I think you hit some very important points. And I think it all ties into your Buddhist philosophy, which is, you know, it's a different way to not just look at life, but, you know, be present in life.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of value different values. You know, we're all, oh, how was the weekend? I was busy. That may not be the best answer in a Buddhist, you know, setting. So just the same, take us to Tennessee. This looks a little bit different than, what was it, 130th Street? Or
100 and, like, what street did I live on for 20 years? 117th Street.
117th.
Yep.
Before it was all gentrified, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. So here's the building, the 3-car garage, and here's the after. We put 2 doors, and I share this building with my husband. It's our studio. His door is on the left and mine's on the right. I have the glass door and the window. And I have a picture of the inside before we redid it. So that's how awesome it looked before. And ta-da, there's my husband's music studio on his side, which is amazing. He does amazing stuff in there. And then this is the view. Okay, so I had to include this. This is the view out my studio window in the backyard. I call it the yard. My mother-in-law calls it the field, or yeah. So this is a metal barn on the right-hand side here that I faux painted to look like the wood, because I see this barn, you know, from my studio, and I also see it from my kitchen window. And it was like this very nice old wood. And then it would get to, I wish I had a little pointer. Do I? Oh, I do, right here. Can you see my little pointer?
We can.
Okay, awesome. Well, right here is where the metal began. And so all of this I painted, you can tell it's kind of cartoony if you compare it. But when you're looking at it, you know, from afar, it does the trick. It looks like wood. So
That's great.
Inside that barn, I found these old wooden planks. And so I call these existential planks. And I found like my paintings take so much time. They're very elaborate, detailed. I wanted to do something that would take less time, that I could just pour out creativity onto. And so I found these pieces of wood, and my husband said, "Oh, we could burn those." And I said, "No, let's not burn those. I'll wash them off, and I'll put sealer on them, and I'll make these things that I now call existential planks." So this one says, "Welcome. The doors of reality are infinite. May you enter all with your shoes off." So it's kind of like the mundane, taking your shoes off at the door, meeting like this kind of blow your mind philosophy where, yeah, reality is crazy and amazing, and you could exist in so many ways. But it's like I get that idea out, and then it's out, and then I move on to the next one. And this is one of my favorites because I feel like it's a little art history thing. Here's my trompe l'oeil pointing to the trompe l'oeil, and then the cartoon mouth, and this is real wood. So, and it's smiling. I like that too there. You can see here like the shadow. This is all painted, and that's a real glass bead there.
The tools you're working with, or at least the sort of objects in play, is not unlike the cubist. You're sort of pointing out the artifice, and you're tricking, with your trompe l'oeil play, and you're also doing it in a creative and fun way.
Thank you, Barry. This says better, much, 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 much better together. I like this idea of tying them together with ribbon. I was thinking maybe I could make like a quilt out of these wooden things. I haven't gone that far yet, but here's an example of all of them hanging on the wall right now. I did a gift for a friend of ours, and this is her granddaughter. And I thought this could be a good side hustle. If people wanted to have their kids turned into paper dolls, I could do that for people. So there's a little plug for that. If you know anybody who needs themselves or their children or their grandchildren made into paper dolls. Okay, this is cool. I have a friend, Carl Klingbeil, who is an artist, a painter, and he makes these incredible abstract paintings. And this is paper that he gave to me, and I have like a roll of it, different scraps of his paper. I went to his studio, and he had all these scraps on the floor, and I was like, "These are so beautiful and amazing." And he's like, "Well, you can have them if you want," because I said, I could use these and paint on them. And so he agreed, and this is one of those. And I want to do a bunch of these. I want to do, I'm so inspired by these abstract backgrounds. I think they're really cool. So my contribution to this piece is the little lamb figurine there. Here's a little praying boy figurine. I really like figurines that are praying too. I like being reminded of spirituality it's easy to take life for granted. It's nice to be reminded that it's miraculous to be here. These are all postcard sized. I donated this one to that Postcards from the Edge that they have every year in Manhattan to raise money for AIDS. And now this is what I'm working on right now. So I spent many years painting from still lifes that were just not moving there on my tabletop. I decided now that I'm in this beautiful space here in Tennessee that I would try something different. And so this is a small portion of a larger painting. There's more of it. There's a banana in this larger painting. There's a bunch of objects in this larger painting. There's a little tiny peanut. The peanut is right here, right there. And here's a sloth. Okay, so I've really resisted painting from photographs pretty much all of my adult life, and unless I've had to for jobs or something. But I decided to try and use my imagination some more. And if it called for using a photograph, I would use it. So that's where I'm at now. I'm using my imagination, I'm using photographs, and I'm creating, I'm placing these objects on this canvas, trying to achieve, wait a minute, there's, oh yeah, here, trying to achieve this sort of zero gravity space. And I want this painting, so this is a work in progress. I want this painting to have very, very deep depth. So I'm gonna be adding little things that are normally big, in there, so that, you can see right here, that's that little woman I showed you kind of flipping around, and the little banana by her. And then here's this figurine, and there's a little banana over here and up here. I just need to fill it in the right way. It's still, I have an idea, but I don't have it all worked out like the way I would work it out in a still life. And that's another one I'm going to start soon with this nice purpley, dark purpley, mauve kind of background color. And I wanted to mention that this soccer ball here, I entered a call for entry for the soccer stadium here in Nashville, and they accepted it. So this soccer ball is now hanging in the hallway of the box seats. So the owners of the soccer team, it's right outside their box seat, which is pretty cool. And they're renting it from me, which is a really cool way to show your artwork. And if they sell it, then they'll, subtract the rental fee from the money. But whatever. Anyway, I thought that was just, I would have let them consign it for free, but they rented it. And that was like, wow, they really care about artists. That's awesome. So
Melodie, can I
Yeah.
ask you how much it changed your art when you moved from New York City to Tennessee?
Well, it changed about that much. Like going from still lifes that were on the table to now kind of exploding it wide open. Now I have a lot of space. I have a lot of air around me. I have a lot of freedom. I don't have nearly as many issues as I had when I was living in New York City. I live on 25 acres of land now, and it's just ideal here. Raising a son in Manhattan was pretty difficult, but raising a son in Tennessee on 25 acres with his grandmother next door is heavenly. So hopefully this painting, when I'm done with it, it'll reflect that it'll reflect all that goodness that I have in my life right now.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
I'll read a few comments, Melody, that
Okay.
have been posted. Let's see. Lawrence Wheatman says, truly the shadows are so much the life of your work. Audrey Anastasi says, do you consider these works to be collaborations? Because she's referring to when you paint a sculpture. I would assume no. Yes, but no, your painting is your painting. your source material is a three-dimensional object. What's your thoughts?
I feel like obviously my painting couldn't exist if it hadn't been for the sculpture to look at. And so in that way, it's collaborative. But the painting, at the end of the day, I get to keep the painting and they get to keep their sculpture. And it's sort of like it's a nice, wonderful thing that they let me paint it. But I wouldn't do I wouldn't take, I don't know how, I think that's almost a legal question in a way, because what if I wanted to make mugs with my painting of her sculpture on it, right? Like she might not want me to make a mug or like something really cheesy or whatever, and you know what I mean? But I don't know what I'm not going to do that. So I don't know. It's
May I say something?
Of
I
course.
Well, actually, I have a comment also, but that question was really more about the works that you were doing on the scraps from the other artists.
Oh yeah, I
Those
definitely
discarded pieces, whether, because I like collaborating with other artists.
yes.
And I'm curious because I'll call it background for want of a better, your ground, more I'll call it ground because it really is integral, is very different than when you have sort of the white space. And then I also want to make a comment, and it's a little bit of a question also, but you could answer that first. Yeah, these are the ones I was referring to.
Yeah.
Are
Right.
those collaborations?
I think I call them collaborations. I choose, I have the scraps and I crop them. I find the bit, and I clean the dirt off of them, and because some of them are just on the floor, so I'm really composing them the way I want them, and I put the object where I want it.
Right.
So he really feels like I've taken them and created something of my own, I think, but I always refer to them as collaborations. Yeah. I always, when I show them to anybody, I always make sure I say, on paper painted by Carl Klingbeil. So people know, because I feel like, it's very important that people know that he did that, not me. That's important to me.
Thanks, Audrey, for clarifying. Yes, I referred to the wrong series. You're right. That does bring up a different question, but
Right.
The game today, and you're playing in this space, Melody, you're playing with this sort of what level of reality are you in? Is it a figure that's representing reality? Then you paint it, you take an artist's finished work, you're combining and sort of challenging, I think, levels of reality in a still life presentation. So I think that's part of the conceptual layering here.
So I also have a question. I don't know whether this is the proper time or not, but it's kind of an illusion question or an illusionistic question. So on a lot of the pieces, the cast shadow defines the three-dimensionality of it. And then you were talking about the more recent pieces where you're looking to kind of have these objects in space and you're using scale to possibly show depth.
Yes.
But it seems like that's going to be a challenge. I think that having less contrast in things that are more in the background is one way of reaching that illusion, but it seems like this is going to be a huge challenge. And I'm just wondering, some of your thoughts on that.
It is a huge challenge. So already I've tried to incorporate some reflection into it. Here's this glass thing and I'm reflecting it off of here. So you kind of know that they're near each other in space. And this is behind this and it's kind of reflecting through it. But yeah, and the snake here is reflecting on this hat. And then the shadows, here are the shadows of the angels here, but it's where is the light source? I don't know. It's so difficult. It's so challenging. I really don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to play out, but I'm up for the challenge, I guess.
You're right. That's a good note, Audrey. That is very different than working with the shadows. And when you take that away, it'll tend to read flat, even with all the scale shifts. One trick to throw in is, De Chirico did it, and so many artists. you throw in a couple of lines, couple diagonals, horizon line, you get things vanishing, and you don't have to have one 3-point perspective going on. You could have pieces of several, and you could zoom back with lines to points and have monstrous objects at the point, so to speak. But I'm sure you'll achieve it however you do. I mean, you can't ignore your incredible skill at painting. And it's so nice to hear you speak of it as sort of like you love to move around and push paint. And you just do it at such a high and such a good level. I want to go back to that early thought when you had like, when I was younger, I had a lady up the block that taught painting. You said she put you on still lifes and you did a vase. Let me ask you, inside the vase, did you do the little, refracted light and the break up the geometry? Sorry to push the point, but it's funny. You do still lives, and you mentioned an object that you obviously like. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, my mom has that painting hanging in her house. I'll have to take a picture of it and let you see it, Barry, and you can decide for me how well I did with that stuff. I know she really taught me a lot. She taught me, her name was Mrs. Couch, and she taught me how to shade the edges and work with the watercolor. And I think just by the act of seeing, you start to like, I think my everything got more and more refined the more I did it and the older I got, so it's definitely not quite as crazy as my later work. This early still life is definitely more simple. Does that answer your question?
Oh, that's great thoughts. Monroe Hodder says, I like the way the kitsch element in your work aligns with the spirituality I sense in them. Sort of nice opposite play.
Thank you. Yeah, I love kitschy things. I guess I want to elevate kitsch. I guess I'm on a mission to elevate kitsch. I don't know.
There's a show title there, Elevated Kitsch. Jeff Koons would obviously be a player.
Yeah, it's so funny. Jeff Koons, one of my friends via email, an acquaintance kind of friend, he said, oh yeah, your work is kind of something about nostalgia and Jeff Koons. And I was like, really, Jeff Koons? And then I was looking at Jeff Koons and I saw that Jeff Koons had a bow painting and he had it way before my painting. And I was like, oh my goodness, Jeff Koons has already done what I did. And yeah, but I guess you got to be yourself. So I had no idea he had painted a bow, but he did. And
well, I have news for you.
And he did it first.
There was another artist who once painted a banana too. Everything's been painted and done, but nobody's done the combination that you've done. And that's obvious. And also your own sort of style of hyperrealism that you have. That's all unique.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that when you go to that new purple painting that you have kitsch in the wall, you'll get a lot of space just from that color.
Yeah.
And I think I would recommend using colors that create so much space on their own, because then you actually wouldn't, it'll just be there. You don't have to worry.
Right.
Because I think you're much more interested in painting the objects.
Yeah, I've been thinking too, also darkness, adding the darker element is it's so much easier to get the highlights really bright, using this lighter color as a background. You can never get like really, really white, bright, because the background is bright. And so when it's darker, I think I'm going to have a lot easier time with making things have really good highlights on them to give.
On an interesting note, you were talking about the shadows, I was looking at the shadows that the ladder is projecting on the piece. I was just looking at all the lines, just as a note, just.
Yeah, it's good to have things like you can mix colors that way, I would mix colors of shadows a lot of times that way, like hold my hand up and see what that color was, or, I have the object too, like just casting the shadow on the background. But yeah, it's good to have reference.
Monroe and Melody, those are great points. You don't realize how hard it is to offset against a white background. Even yellow the white will beat it. You know, the opposite is start with a black canvas. Wow, yellow pops, white pops.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strength in going to the purple, a dark shade. I think darks have advantages as background. You've also, have you in the past done like a wallpaper?
Oh yeah, yeah. This piece here that's made of the different panels with the black and white bow in the middle, that has a wallpaper that I made with this company called Cavern Home. It's actually owned by Carlton DeWoody's wife, Sarah. Carlton's mom is Beth Rudin DeWoody, who has a huge art collection. There it is. So this, maybe I can zoom in on it a bit. These are like printed, silk screened silk screen printed wallpaper that has these gems. They're actually kind of detailed, but you can't see it in this image, unfortunately. And that wallpaper is for sale. You can wallpaper your kitchen with it. That's what I want to do, but I haven't done it yet.
What, wallpaper your kitchen or actually paint the dots in your kitchen?
Wallpaper with the dots. Oh, I should have included also among my painting projects, besides painting the barn out there, I also painted our bathroom. But I didn't include a picture of that. It's kind of crazy bathroom now.
You know, I have to remark about that barn that you painted, that sort of trump Lloyd. That, you know, whenever you can take art, you know, it's great. A painting is great. You can hang it on a wall. You know, it's a very static item. But when you can go outside in the environment and do anything, whether it's sculpture being placed, or you trump Lloyd a barn, or you graffiti a wall, whatever it is, it all of a sudden is live with the landscape. It becomes, it's no longer 2D and it's no longer 3D. It's like real dimension. And so you get a very strong conceptual play here when you look at that object. And, you know, it goes right with your work, where you're really playing, you know, with representation and what's the level of reality. I mean, I think it's great like this. I could almost see you putting in a fake shadow in the grass, you know, and sort of really tricking it. But, you know, I think that's
how real is your life? How real are you? You know, I mean.
Melody, I wanted to say that just talking about wallpaper, there is a very popular place online that many artists, they do their wallpaper is a spoon flower.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of that place. That's right. Yep.
I'm just saying they, you know.
And you can make fabric. You can make fabric too. Yeah.
Fabric and yes, wallpaper, fabric and other things. Yes.
Yeah. Melody, shall we wrap it up? I'll stop screen sharing.
Okay. Sure.
Stop screen. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your attention and looking at my images. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Melody. Audrey Anastasia marks the super white background is actually an abstraction versus a more neutral scale. It does abstract the space. A brilliant performance, you know, your work, the way you talk about it so plainly, the way you mix in some, you know, very important spiritual points, you know, and I mean, do you see your art in its best way as enlightening and awakening the viewer?
I don't know if it's gonna have that awesome of an effect, but that would be amazing if it did. I do think that it helps me to just be more in the present moment, to make the work. Like I love making the work and being alive, making the work. I get so much joy from it that that hopefully that translates into the work, but you know, you can't control other people's reactions to things, and you never know. You might say something to be nice and somebody takes it as an insult. You might paint something to be sweet and somebody feels like they got slapped in the face by it. You know, I don't know. It's very difficult to gauge people's reactions to things, but I'm just trying to be as good of a person as I can be and keep evolving into a you know, a more kind, loving person. So
I
yeah.
want to say that, you know, I like the way that you work with images with us, just going back and forth, back and forth. I think that is very dynamic. I want to tell you that it was very dynamic to see how you go back and forth. Also, collaborations is the new thing. It's very important that we all help each other. Whatever it is for you, nobody will take it. And I always praise people that they know how to collaborate. And that is something that I want to thank you for that. You know, we have to be grateful, like you said, to be alive. And art is a good way to just to collaborate with each other. It's a good example how the world is changing, and we need more of that. So thank you, Melody, for that.
Well, thank you for saying all those kind of things. Thank you.
Hey, Melody, I just want to quickly say, first of all, thank you for the presentation. Wonderful. Really enjoyed seeing all your work and the way that you presented it. So I want to echo Elisa's comments. I'm just wondering that now that you're down in Tennessee, do you have an art community? Do you have any people? How close are you to a larger city or an area? And also, how long have you been there? So it's a lot of questions, but just asking about that move from New York to there. And I myself, after 26 years of New York, am living now full-time in St. Petersburg, Florida. And that's my list of questions.
Okay. So we left in 2020 March, right as the pandemic hit. It was like I got my show up. It was up for 2 weeks, and then it was like the pandemic was like closing everything down. And we had this. We were always planning to move to Tennessee because my husband's mom grew up here on this property. It was her parents' property, and she inherited it. And so he was like, let's go now. This is the time. We were planning to leave in May of 2020, but instead we left in March. So I got here, and I have some artist friends. There's a painter, Peggy Snow, and a sculptor, Emily Holt, and another sculptor, Leslie Patterson. And so I have some girlfriends who are artists in Nashville. We're 25 minutes outside of Nashville. And recently, Emily and Peggy had a show at this gallery called Julia Martin Gallery. And that was great. We went out, that was the first thing we went to when COVID kind of lifted. And so there is a thriving art community here, and there are a bunch of galleries. I have not seen them all. I've only been to like one or two at this point. And I'm not a huge socialite or anything like that. So I'd much rather just stay home than go out.
Hi, Olivia and Tony are coming up the hill. They're going to stop by to pick.
It's like you had a built-in community, which is a nice thing. I had a bit of that myself. That's a real nice thing to land there. So you're not cold landing there. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And it's great here. We have neighbors across the street that have children, so that are my son's age. It could not be better. That's really perfect here for me and for our family.
Well, there are less than 25 of us here. You have 25 acres, an acre each, shall we say?
It's not mine, it's my mother-in-law's.
Oh, we're all coming.
My mother-in-law is awesome. I love her so much. So I did good. I did really good. I married the right guy. I got the right mother-in-law, and I got a cool son.
That's the jackpot, girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Very nice. There's a great line. Shecky Green once says, "It's nice when nice happens to nice."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Melody, you are a nice person, and I think the joy you put in, to hear an artist express that they just love painting is really something. I mean, that really is the basis of why we paint. And then, to hear you express that, and it's sort of it brings us back to our core a little bit of what we do. And I think it goes into your work, because at first I was going to say, comedy, or does it bring a smile? And I think your work does that, because I think we get your smile that you're putting in, your joy, sort of comes out to the viewer in the fascination of objects and the beautifully well done crafted light play. It is abstracted. There's no question about it. There's all different kinds of hyperrealism, and yours just, it's not a negative word. Yours seems happy.
That's good. That's good.
Yes.
Good.
Not allowed in the general art world. Well, maybe Murakami and smiling things. So there were all so many trends going on at once.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I got to ask, the last speaker was in Chattanooga. Are you like 12 hours away in Tennessee from Chattanooga?
No, I think Chattanooga is about 2 hours away.
2
Yeah.
hours.
Yep.
So there you have it. Certainly, and a great question about how your art has changed from moving. And, you're right. Expansive space. You can work larger. You've got, it's like, it's both direct and indirect. It's like affected your person, your persona, and your sense of self. And so I think that's what it is. We don't realize, unfortunately, sometimes Manhattan really cramps us. It is a dark, closeted wall, this city. I live in suburbia. It's a very different feel to see a boat go up a river. And, I always think it's a lot to do with horizontal lines are calming, and that's what we get in the country. Vertical lines are somewhat aggressive, and that's what
I
you
never
get in the
thought of
city.
that.
Yeah, it may be, but what a great exploration. I thank everybody for coming. Next week we have Stephen Hirsch, who was a photographer, quite a fine New York Times photographer, and he took photography to many levels. But then he's also a brute painter, watercolor drawer, fascinating work. Again, showing the diverse range of artists that are out there from both parts of Tennessee and even in New York City. So thank you, Melody. What a pleasure. Thank you. And everybody,
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to get to know your work. And I'll look you up on social media. Okay?
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Uh,
have a good evening, everyone, and thank you for the presentation, Melody. All the
You're
best
welcome.
to you.
My pleasure. Thank you.